Hello, everyone. I'm Joel Baird, the General Manager of Missoula Community Access Television.
And I'm Kim Anderson. I'm on the board of MCAT, and I'm the Director of Programs and Grants for Humanities Montana.
Welcome to this edition, a chilly November edition of Missoula Live. I have just one thing to tell you. You can come to MCAT with your child. Ages 9 to 13 we consider sort of appropriate for stop animation workshops. This is every Saturday. At 1 o'clock we're ready for you. You can be late, and it's a drop-in, and it goes till 5. Scott is enlarging
There you go. Look at
this
that.
beautiful graphic for
Cute.
you at home. There's a fee of $10 for up to 4 hours of this supervised training. Your child will learn some computer skills, some video editing skills, some storytelling
Are there
skills,
examples
possibly.
on our website of some of the
Yes.
films? So if you're curious
There are
on
many
what,
examples.
yeah, that would be,
Yeah.
it'd be fun to look at them if you're a parent and you're wondering.
Maybe at the break, I'm sure Scott
Oh,
can
maybe
pull
we could
up.
run some.
Right, he could, in between our guests, he could run some.
That's a good idea.
The other thing I wanted to say about that was we're making it free for our 2 Title I schools, flagship schools, which
Oh.
are Washington and Lowell Middle School.
Yeah, they're showing us something now.
Yeah, see. So, look, learn and create short films. And you see some other things kids do is ride on Scott's hoverboard. I don't know if they have to sign a release for
Not
that.
part of actual filmmaking,
No,
but
they need a break, right? And then the other break, of course, is the virtual reality setup we have here.
Right. So it's a fun day.
It's a pretty fun day.
Yeah.
And if your child attends Washington or Lowell Middle School, you can bring your child here for free in
Wow,
that
you
period.
can't beat that.
Yeah, so that's my big message before the big show.
Okay, and I just have one thing. Humanities Montana has a grant deadline coming up. You know that we give funds to grant applicants who are doing public humanities work, whether that means bringing in someone to give a lecture about history or literature, if you're doing some work in the community or having a conversation about topical issues, whatever it might be. We have a December 20th grant deadline. Funds of over $1,000, no upper limit. If you're wondering whether you might have a project that would be appropriate for us, call me at Humanities Montana.
Nice. All right, we're ready for our first guest, Mark
He's
Moss.
here, he's
Come on
here.
down.
I'm
Welcome.
gonna call you.
Oh, good. Excellent. It's so good. See, my work is done.
Boom.
Yeah. So your organization may be familiar to many of our viewers. Tell us something, but tell us, how did it get its start? How long has it been around?
Tell us something that's been around for 6 years.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it was right around this time in 2011 that the Missoula Art Museum called Patrick Dugans, who at the time was organizing a storytelling event called Missoula Moth,
Yeah.
right? And it was playing off of the Moth radio hour.
So that's a national type.
It is, and they're based out of New York City. That you can hear them on MTPR. You can subscribe to their podcasts. All those things. They have events all over the country, and he was piggybacking off of that name without their permission.
Uh-oh, Missoula Moth. I like the alliteration.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
right. Right. So he moves to Bozeman, and he was doing his storytelling event monthly here in Missoula, and there was no time limit, and there was no theme, and there was no vetting of storytellers.
Which seems a little unformed.
It was
Okay, yeah, that's
pretty loose.
Yeah.
But I
Pretty
want to make
loose.
sure people understand what the form is too, and that is that it makes storytellers out of the volunteers, right? The volunteer says, oh, these guys have a forum in which I could tell a story. I'm going to volunteer myself to go down and tell a story.
Well, yes,
To a
and
live audience.
my belief in the reason that I do this, well, let's back up. So Patrick moves to Bozeman, and the art museum here calls him and says, hey, we want you to do one of your storytelling events at Artini. And he said, call Mark. Mark loves this. He's been a storyteller at 3 out of the 4 events that I've done, And I think he'd be really good at it.
So you started as a storyteller, not as the
Yes.
impresario of
Storytelling
storytelling.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was a storyteller, and that's why I took this on, because when I was on that stage telling my story for the first time, you know, I used to be a teacher, and I was a park ranger in Yellowstone National Park. I was a salesperson for a long time. And I can talk all day about all those sorts of things, but it's not my story. And when I was up on that stage for the first time, I felt like people were hearing me. I was feeling validated
Yeah.
and listened to for the first time in my adult life. And I wanted to pass that gift on to as many people as I can. And so that's why I agreed to take it on. I knew that I wanted to tighten it up. I wanted there to be a time limit and themes, limited amount of storytellers, and some vetting. And I tightened it up even further than that over time, where now there's a required storytelling workshop
Right.
for all of the storytellers. So everybody has a story. Not everybody knows how to tell their story.
Right.
And so people call a pitch line and they say, this is the story I'm thinking of telling. And I sit down with an advisory board and we listen to all of those pitches and we decide who can get up on the stage and tell their story. And that is a very difficult process to go through, because I don't like telling anybody no.
Right.
But we have an event coming up on December 12th, and a live storytelling event, and there were 20 individuals who pitched for
Amazing.
8 storytelling slots.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of work to do.
Because
select that.
in order for people to tell their stories, there has to be listeners, an audience.
yeah.
And you can't expect an audience to sit there indefinitely.
Right.
So
Right.
there must be an end.
There's got to
But have you
be.
thought of a marathon ever? 24 hours.
Oh
There's
man.
no limit, no vetting, and then whoever is brave enough to hang out and listen, and who's brave enough to get up and talk, you could pop in and out too.
That would be brutal.
It sounds difficult.
So the way you've evolved this, talk a little bit about what the kind of the new format is.
Yeah. So the first event. First of all, let's talk about the name.
Oh yeah,
Right?
right.
Because this is an interesting story. Tell Us Something is a very intentional name. And when I took it over, I knew I wanted to grow the project and provide services to Missoula for storytellers and listeners alike. And beyond Missoula, I mean, we also have a podcast that comes out every Tuesday, so tomorrow. And we have 2 YouTube videos that come out every week. So we have YouTube and podcast and live event, plus the workshops that I offer my services for free to the storytellers. And so I knew I wanted to grow in that direction. And I also didn't want to grow a project that had a name that I would then have to someday change.
So you were aware when
I
you
was
first
very
stepped
aware
in.
that I was going to have to change the name, and I wanted to have that conversation with the Moth.
Right.
And I let them come to me by linking to their website on the Missoula Moth website. So Joan Firestone, the executive director of the Moth at the time, called me very, very worried. And we had a conversation, and she sent me a cease and desist letter, and we changed the name from Missoula Moth to Tell Us Something at the very first event, which you were there, Kim, at the Missoula Art Museum. And the theme that night was Dear Diary.
Yeah.
And we had limited time that night. We had only an hour, so we had 6 storytellers. Usually we have 8. And it was incredible. It was an incredible night. We had a full house.
The response from the very beginning
Yeah.
has just been, I mean, the feeling in the room is always so kind of warm and encouraging, and, you know, it's like everyone is rooting for everybody. Because it's a difficult thing, it can be a difficult thing to do, to
Yeah.
stand up on a stage and tell your story.
Well, and most of the storytellers that you're seeing at Tell Us Something have never been on the stage before.
Yeah, they're not
And
actors.
some of them that have been on the stage have never told their own story. They're used to being an actor embodying a character of some sort, and now they have to bear themselves and be really vulnerable, and it's incredible.
So
Yeah.
there is a strong sense of the audience becoming the performer and the audience again.
Yeah. I mean, there is certainly a conversation that's going on
Yeah.
between the storyteller and the audience.
It's not
For
really
sure.
like the professional one is addressing the unprofessional many.
Right.
Right.
They're kind of taking turns.
Because
Yeah,
the many are on the stage at the
Right.
same time. And so here's the other cool thing that I love about Tell Us Something, is that I never announce who the storytellers are beforehand.
Oh, so you don't have like big marquee names.
Nope, there's not a
Right.
program. It's not like, oh, are you going to tell us something this time? Yeah, Joel Baird's telling a story. Oh, I don't want to
Yeah,
miss that.
right.
Or, oh, I'm not going because John Smith is going to be there and I don't really like that guy,
Right.
or whatever. And so I want people to come and listen to their community share stories. And I really believe that storytelling can change the world. It builds empathy with each other, with ourselves sometimes. The process of learning our own story and how we want to portray that can build empathy with ourselves even. And really, really just transforms the community, the audience, and the tellers.
And you've had a number of venues. I remember recording Tell Us Something at the Roxy Theater.
Yeah.
But I know you've been at the Top Hat.
We
Yeah.
And now I
started.
learned you're at the Art
Outgrew
Museum.
the top
We
hat.
started at the Art Museum, and
Yeah.
then Greta Gar was running the Top Hat at the time, and I always wanted to perform in that venue.
Yeah.
And not being a performer or a musician, I didn't know how I was going to get to do that. And I said, "Hey, Greta, I know you're broke and you're in the red, and I'm going to help you sell some drinks. Tell me the slowest night of the week." And she said Tuesday night, and so we filled the bar on a Tuesday night, and people were coming into the Top Hat even after Nick remodeled it
Yeah.
at 3 o'clock in the afternoon to get a seat for a 6 o'clock show.
Yep.
And for the first 5 years, it was free, and we had to start charging at the door because I'm a full-time volunteer essentially, and the program does cost money to run.
Sure.
And so we had to start to try to make it sustainable.
And
So.
it's not very expensive.
No, not at all. And I don't know. I know on KBGA I'm not allowed to talk about prices. Can I do that here?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
you
Yeah?
can.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know.
Wave of the hand.
So
It's up to Joel.
tickets for the December 12th event are on sale now. You can get them at Rockin' Rudy's, at the Top Hat box office, and at the Wilma.com. They are $10 in advance and $12 the day of the show.
Yeah, that seems pretty reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, I
It's
want
like
to
a
try to
movie.
keep it affordable.
Right.
Yeah, and that's not a movie or a couple of days worth of coffee.
Right.
Or,
Well, yeah.
a night at your favorite microbrewery.
Right.
Yeah,
And so you can buy tickets ahead of time, and then you don't have to stand in a line that night.
Correct.
Waiting to get a ticket.
Yes.
I would encourage that.
yes.
Excellent. And it's at the Wilma now. Right?
It is at the Wilma now, yes. And I was very concerned about moving into a venue that size.
I was at the first one after the move, and I was like, can he fill this place?
And we are seeing crowds between 400 and 700 people, depending on the time of year.
It's
It's
Wonderful.
incredible. And they're coming to hear their community. They don't know who's going to be telling a story. Now, storytellers, if they decide that they want to advertise that they're going to be out there, I can't do anything to stop that.
No, I suppose
Right.
not.
So if they are helping spread the word in that way, that's up to them.
right.
And
Yeah.
I was wondering too, Scott, I don't know if you could find one on YouTube, because I think MCAT's recorded.
Yeah,
a
you've
lot
been
of
recording.
Oh,
something.
yeah.
Right. So the
And
next.
maybe, in between, because you showed people at home the animation,
Yeah.
Toot Sweet. But in between guests, you could do, I don't know, how long is it?
They're long. They're 10 minutes
Right.
or longer. But
Is
today.
it okay to show just a splash?
Sure, a little
just
snippet.
Okay.
Howard Kingston's came out today.
Oh, fun.
Oh, is that right?
Fun,
He
fun.
has a wonderful accent.
He
Yeah.
does. He does.
So, the event is December
12th.
12th.
Yep.
So you've already had your pitches and
Yep.
made your decision.
We
You
made.
knew.
I notified all of those who pitched on Saturday if they made the cut or not, and selected some alternates just in case. It's nice to
Right.
have a backup plan.
Right.
And then I've already booked the dates for 2018,
Wow.
and so theme selection
At the Wilma?
At the
for
Wilma,
year?
yeah.
Wow,
Excellent.
congratulations.
So we do 4 shows a year
Yep.
in Missoula, and the Sorry, I just looked at the TV.
I
and,
know, it's
and there was,
distracting.
and there was some YouTube going on.
Oh, it's getting acute.
We do 4 events a year in Missoula, and they're all at the Wilma. We have been in Helena before, and I'm hoping to do 2 shows in Helena next year.
Oh, cool.
And Butte is
Yeah,
on the
that's a great
docket
location.
next year as well. Trying to push into some NPR affiliate stations. Hopefully we can make that happen.
Excellent.
And try to push the podcast out and get a higher
Right.
viewership. Because the goal is to get people's stories heard in as many different ways as possible.
Yeah.
And because everybody's story is valuable, and so that's the mission really. Is to
How
get
many
people's
stores are you up to in the career up there?
Over
the
300.
convention?
Over 300.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's quite a library,
Yeah.
isn't it?
It's
amazing.
incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this next event on December 12th is really exciting because for the first time we will be offering American Sign Language interpretation.
Oh,
Good for
cool.
you.
Yeah, so we're going to have ASL interpreters there to provide for that segment of our population in our community, and hopefully encourage them to maybe someday tell a story.
Right.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
But for now, they will be able to come and
listen to a story.
to their community tell stories.
Right.
And I think that's super awesome ability to be able to
Oh,
come.
that is a
Well,
great
that is
idea.
really- Congratulations,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Thanks.
Now, one other thing we didn't touch on is that every show has a theme, and I know they've showed it on the screen, but the theme for December 12th is
Getting away with
Anyway,
it.
I love this one.
Yeah,
It's going to be fun.
it's
That's a nice holiday
there's
feeling.
some really all over. I mean, all over the board.
Right.
Yeah.
The stories are incredible. These people who have pitched. I can't wait to hear their full story because they only have 3 minutes to give me their pitch.
Right.
Oh, so you don't, it's not like it's fresh for you, that night?
Oh,
too?
yeah,
It's
no,
not like
no.
You've heard that before?
The night of the workshop.
Oh, then
Yeah.
you'll hear it
Then
all.
I'll hear all of it, and we'll work on them together
Yeah.
as a group.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's really
yeah.
great.
And so what ends up happening there is then they become in love with each other, and they are all of a sudden this new community,
Right.
Yeah.
and they're rooting for each other, and you know,
Yeah.
you got this, you got this.
Oh, that's swell. That is
Yeah.
really swell. I mean, you know, a lot of people, and Mark and I had talked about how I felt like after my series of panic attacks, I could never mount on the stage again. I just don't imagine it. But I do know that a lot of people are afraid of public speaking, and it holds them back. I think it holds democracy back, as one of my pet peeves, having covered city council
Yeah.
for nearly 25 years, that it's very difficult in a democracy if people don't want to speak out. So I think you're doing an enormous service for the people that are shy,
Yeah.
you know, to go in front of an audience.
Oh, for the workshop part, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, that you present a challenge, like tell a story, but you give the means and the
Skills,
bonding among
yeah.
the people.
I'm not going to send somebody up on stage to fail.
Yeah,
Right,
right.
It's my
right.
job to set them up for success.
Yeah.
You
But
know.
the other really important part I think that you were also alluding to is that it's much harder to stereotype someone or, you know, create boogeymen in your mind when you've heard their story.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very humanizing
Yeah.
effect.
Yeah. And really, the only rule about what you can and can't do on the Tell Us Something stage is you can't sell a product or an idea
Right.
or a political office. Now, we've
Right.
both of our candidates for mayor have been on the Tell Us Something stage before, and our current mayor walked a very thin razor line when he told his story.
Last time.
And no, his was a couple of years ago, but he did talk about like his journey with the water purchase.
Right.
And we talked about it ahead of time, and I was like, oh boy, John, you know, you're walking a tight line here. And he pulled it off.
He did.
And Lisa Tripke told a great story that had nothing to do with politics. She was talking about her family and a pretty traumatic thing that happened with her family. And you can hear both of their stories at tellussomething.org.
Right.
All 6 years of all of those stories are archived at the website and available for free.
That's
TellUsSomething.org.
wonderful.
Yeah.
And I bet,
Yes,
oh,
there it
it's
is.
right there. So people would see it. That's an enormous resource, isn't it?
I listened to some of them when I had to drive to Billings 2 weeks ago, and I listened to some of them.
Oh,
It was
see.
great. It was great.
Well, Mark, I guess we should be plodding on, but thank you for taking the time.
Really
today.
quick, where can people buy tickets in advance?
People can buy tickets in advance for the December 12th Tell Us Something Getting Away With It show at Rockin' Rudy's. the Top Hat Lounge box office, and the Wilma.com.
Okay, so everywhere you'd think.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah.
And now, dear viewer, you're going to be treated to just a little taste of Tell Us Something as we shift out our guests, and we'll be right back.
Hey, hey, how's it going over? Oh, have a good day. Oh, huh, I didn't see you over there. What a nice day to be out and about today. But I want to tell you something about what's going on here. Hold on a second, let me just adjust this. Okay, there you go. Let me talk about MCAT. MCAT is doing Saturday drop-ins starting every Saturday this fall, winter, and spring season from 1 to 5 p.m. Let's go check it out, come on. MCAT is a great way to create. All you gotta do is come on down to our location at 500 North Higgins. It's as easy as that. See you there.
There. Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
Something is a celebration of live storytelling. There are no notes. Nobody's going to read anything. These are true stories told live. Each storyteller has 10 minutes to tell their story. Tonight's theme is rites of passage. Tell Us Something is a Missoula community storytelling event that's quarterly. It originated with the Missoula Moth in January of 2011. The theme for tonight's event is called Rites of Passage. We've got motorcycle enthusiasts, we've got contractors, people from retail, musicians, an actor, all kinds of different folks telling stories tonight. So it's going to run the gamut. A lot of different people from diverse backgrounds, so it's going to be a lot of fun.
Are you there, God? It's me, the fainting hipster. Hipsters don't faint, says my friend Rizzo, as he pulls me off a barroom floor in Virginia City, Montana. The first time I fainted, I was 13, and my mother was giving me the tampon talk. For real. And to this day, Rizzo says to me every time he sees me, "Hey, hipsters don't faint," because he's from...
We are back with Kristen Page Nye. She is here representing the American Cancer Society. Welcome. We were just talking about how vicious this cold has been and developed into walking pneumonia
You've
for you.
come out of your sick bed to talk to us today.
I have.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And you've come to talk about a very important health issue, and it's a panel discussion that's coming up pretty soon.
Yeah. So this Friday, November 10th, we're having our third annual American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network Policy Summit. And this year's topic is the cost of cancer care, addressing patient costs.
Wow. A huge issue. I mean,
It does
and
seem to
you'd
be.
mentioned to me earlier that we're not just talking financial, although that's probably a component of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, with healthcare reform out, everybody's talking about it, everybody's worried about their coverage. One of the most expensive things to cover is a serious illness like cancer. And so we thought this was a great opportunity to talk about those costs, those economic costs, but also to remind all of the stakeholders, whether it's the insurance companies or the providers or the caregivers, employers, all of the other costs that are involved to that patient and their caregivers. So it's going to be a great discussion, several panels. It's going to be kicked off with a panel of survivors and caregivers to talk about from their experience, have very different backgrounds of what type of insurance they had coverage and some did not. So it'll be really interesting to hear their perspective to start that event.
And where is it going to be?
It's going to be at St. Patrick's Hospital in their Broadway Conference Center, and we're really excited to have St. Patrick's Hospital on board as a sponsor of this event, as is Community Hospital.
Okay.
Yeah. And the keynote address will be over the lunch hour, and that will be Professor Bryce Ward. He's a economist at the University of Montana in the School of Research, and he specializes in healthcare economics. So,
It sounds like it's going to be an emotional topic for some. Right?
Yeah, and there's
then-
so much uncertainty right now. I mean, I think this
Right.
is such a timely topic. Everybody is concerned about not knowing where at least the fiscal part of healthcare is going to go.
yeah, for sure. And, you know, I think it's important that all of the stakeholders be in the room, whether you are a patient, whether you're trying to prevent cancer, whether you're a healthcare provider or a payer, so that we can hear each other's perspectives and see what each of us are really trying to do to prevent cancer and also to reduce those costs. Because there's lots more that needs to be done, but there's some pretty interesting things that are happening already.
In the cost reduction world.
Yes.
Interesting. So this is recommended for healthcare professionals. It's recommended for people in positions of leadership politically, like
Yes.
people, council people, state representatives.
State lawmakers.
And that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, in fact, the governor is sending his health policy advisor as well.
Nice.
And we'll have the director of Medicaid there. And actually, the director of Health and Human Services will be in the room as well. Yeah, so it'll be a great opportunity to really have some good conversation and talk about the future and how we can further try to, keep those costs at bay.
Is
Yeah.
there, speaking of cost, is there a cost to attend the conference?
Yeah, it's a registration fee of $25, and if you just go to our website, you can register right there. But we do not want the cost to be a barrier. So if you really want to come, contact the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network, and we can find a scholarship for you.
Great. And it's all day long or the morning followed by the keynote lunch?
It is from 10 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon.
All right,
Yeah.
serious,
So
but
perfect.
not too serious.
Right, right.
So on. And the
Exactly.
conference center is beautiful.
Yes, it's a
Wonderfully
really-
equipped.
Yeah.
Really nice space.
It's an amazing space. I had the privilege, I guess, when City Council was kicked out of their chambers 10 or more years ago. The council met at the
Oh.
Broadway, the St. Pat's Broadway Conference Center for a year. And I got really acquainted with it. So I would recommend it to anyone, said, I would like to go to a conference like this. I'm worried that I'm not going to be able to hear well or see well or that the food's going to be no good. It's not going to be your conference
Right.
because it's a really great space.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
And
Well,
this
thank
is
you.
this is an annual event that you hold, is that right?
Yes, it is. Yeah, in the last 2 years, we did it on palliative care, which is addressing for people with serious illness like cancer, pain and symptom management.
control, right.
Yeah, because the sooner that people are referred to a specialist that works on palliative care, what we see is, one, their quality of life improves, and
Sure.
two, it actually helps to reduce costs because there's less likely of them being readmitted to the hospital and so on.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you mentioned earlier that this is addressing the real, financial costs of cancer, which is it's a huge thing that hits most families in one way or another.
Yeah.
But you said that you were also talking about other costs, other kinds of costs. What sorts of things are you talking about?
Well, I think it's really important. The event will really focus on the economic, but
Okay.
to frame it in understanding the emotional
Right.
impact of hearing that you have cancer, the emotional impact to your loved ones, the stress it has on just even trying to plan your year on knowing that the biggest costs are going to be at the front end of your diagnosis,
Right.
right? So there's just all sorts of emotional costs and transportation, being worried that you can get to and from your treatment, depending on what your treatment is going to be. Housing, if you have to drive out of, drive from a fair distance to make sure that you have
Oh, yeah.
a place to stay if you need to stay overnight.
Right.
So there's all sorts of costs involved. And I think it's just really important for us to keep that in perspective.
To look at the whole big picture.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like the conference would be really good for people that are, advocating changes and reform
Yep.
in healthcare insurance, or people that are in the industry of providing care to people, whether it's through like a nursing home or a hospital setting or.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one big takeaway that I'm hoping, or that our organization is hoping will come out of this is not only talking about how once somebody's diagnosed with cancer, how we can reduce those costs, but how we prevent cancer. Because that's the best way to reduce the cost of cancer, is for us to prevent. And not all cancers are preventable, but quite a few are.
Over the years, we've heard about, the dollar figure attached to what we save with anti-smoking campaigns, for
Right.
instance, stuff like that.
Yeah, for 30% of all cancer-related deaths internationally, nationally in Montana, are associated with smoking.
Wow, I had
Yeah.
no idea. It's still that high?
It is still that high.
Amazing.
We've come a long way since 2000 here in Montana. We've passed a increase to the tobacco tax. We've secured funding for a tobacco prevention and cessation program, and made sure that all places are smoke-free indoors. In a 10-year period, we've seen a 60% reduction in youth use, which is huge,
It is.
because 90% of long-term smokers start before the age of 18. And so we see this as a child onset disease. So there's policies like that we can put into place. It's been 13 years since we've increased the tax on tobacco products. That's an easy thing that we could do to help get people to stop smoking and help prevent kids from quitting.
Right.
Preventing kids from tanning, indoor
Right.
tanning.
Oh, that's
My
right.
daughter was a huge fan of that when she was a teenager.
I was too. I tanned before every prom. But now that I know better, my daughter won't be.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So there's little things that we can do. There's not one silver bullet.
Sure.
But making sure that there's healthy places to walk and recreate in our community. All sorts of things that we can do to prevent cancer.
Yeah, and I bet you and Lisa had a good discussion
We
about
did.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
Infrastructure and of course, inequality in wealth.
Right,
That
yeah.
Lisa's going to come out and talk about that for her conference. That there's a correlation between poverty and ill health. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
But that there's stuff that can be done once the obvious is
Right. Yeah,
stated
your health
and
outcomes
so
should
on.
not be dependent on your zip code, for
Right.
sure.
Very
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
So give us one more time the overview of when,
Sure.
where, how
You bet.
much,
Right.
all that.
You bet. So the cost of cancer care, addressing cancer patient costs, will be this Friday, November 10th, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at St. Patrick's Hospital in their conference room from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And there's a registration fee of $25. But if that's a problem, just contact us and we'll find a way to get you in.
So you can
Right.
register on the website?
Yes,
Great.
you
Yeah, and they're
can.
showing the website right here for folks
Yeah.
at home. Policy Summit. Excellent. Well, Kristen, thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you. I
Sounds like a
appreciate it.
fascinating
Thanks for being in
conference.
the background.
Yay,
Very
being so
patient.
patient.
Too bad you can't tan. But we'll be right back with some more health issues. Lisa's here from the Missoula Health Department, and there's a summit coming up that you may be
Another
interested in.
summit.
Yeah, it's a summit time. You can see her right after this.
Hey, let's check out this park. Oh, wow, that's really cool. To find a great local park or forest near you, go to discovertheforest.org.
Welcome, my friends, to Missoula Community Access Television, MCAT. And here, every Saturday afternoon, we're having a drop-in animation camp, and where you can do such wonderful things as do animating things of great all endeavors, like make Legos come to life. Or like this. Just do that. It'll be amazing. Here at MCAT, 500 North Aiken, Suite 105, every Saturday afternoon, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m.
What do you wish for? A nice life? Nice things? Or do you wish for something more? A sense of purpose? Do you wish to discover a cure? To write code that cracks an unsolvable question? To further our exploration into space? Or to invent something that changes everything right here on Earth? Well, if that's your wish, make yourself ready. Because when you look back, you'll see that you didn't just make wishes, you realized them.
I think.
We are back with Lisa Biskevich. She is representing Missoula Health Department. Thank you for being on the show.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
You're most welcome.
Another summit.
Yes.
Yes.
Right?
This one is called Invest Health Strategies for Healthier Cities.
Exactly.
And it says now it's a project of the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation and Reinvestment Fund. So a grant was obtained that,
In 2016, we applied for a planning grant with the Robert Wood Johnson Reinvestment Fund.
Yeah.
And what it was a call to action for mid-sized cities from 60,000 to 300,000 to develop a team across the sectors of health and community development to look and see how healthy your city was or was not,
right?
and that what needed to be done to move it forward, to engage people in their built environments and infrastructure. So how could community development support health in a
Yeah.
nutshell? And so we applied. We put together a robust team with Susan Patrick from United Way of Missoula County, Lavelle Means, she's city planner at
Yes, we know
manager
Lavelle.
at City of Missoula. And then we have Kaya Peterson with NeighborWorks Montana, Mary Hutton from Providence St. Pat's Hospital, and then myself from the health department. And basically what we discovered in our community is that in our lower wealth neighborhoods, the River Road, Franklin and Fort, Northside, Westside neighborhoods, we really had a lack of infrastructure, poor health outcomes, and obesity and depression, and generational poverty. So really communities and pockets of poverty that have been there for multiple years, like 30 years plus.
Wow. How did you come to that realization?
Oh, well, this is the exciting part. So I worked with our GIS department and Mike Snook with Missoula County, and I said, hey, Mike, let's look at some city data and see how we're doing with our infrastructure, with sidewalks and with parks, and where our low-income housing is, where our trees are, and let's look at the health outcomes in these neighborhoods. And boom, we created this Missoula Community Health Map, which is on our website.
Wow.
And we're able to really see the disparities of health in our pockets of poverty in our community.
What a
And
great
so-
tool.
Yeah,
That's
and
amazing.
so is basically the big call to action is, why wouldn't we want to invest in these neighborhoods to have complete sidewalks, to have more parks and urban forestry, and more access to affordable groceries and housing and healthy homes? And it's all layered, it's all connected, and basically we created a map now that we can all look at and say, hey, this is why we should invest in this neighborhood, because they're not doing so well.
Yeah.
So, and basically it's when you look at the poverty, it's really, it's not good. And then the the cost burden that these families and community members have for how much they invest into their housing is really staggering too. I don't have the stats off the top of my head, but if you go to our website, there's a couple really great reports. One of them is Missoula Invest Health neighborhood report. We went into the neighborhoods and did walkabouts with people in the neighborhood and talked about what the barriers were for them to access physical activity and nutrition. And what's interesting in all of the neighborhoods, the number one thing they said they needed was sidewalks. Number 2 was lighting. Number 3 was parks and community centers. So, you know, what we know, what the research shows us is that if people have access where they live, work, learn, play to these amenities, that they will choose to get their 30 days of physical activity that is needed. Their 5 fruits and vegetables, all of the prevention pieces to create healthier lives for everyone. So, because everybody should have an opportunity to make the healthy choice, the easy choice, right?
Yeah.
And that is difficult. You know, like the old-fashioned idea almost seems like it's still in effect, that one can live on the wrong side of the tracks. You're on the wrong side of the tracks. Like, how long did it take? The only access outside of automobiles or a risky bicycle trip to the north side was the Orange Street Underpass, which is one of the most urban, you know, scary-looking places in town. I mean, it's the place where people honk their horn because they want to hear the echo, and, you know, that it's so unusual to them. And it was a big to-doing to get the overpass. You know, took years and years and years. And it opened up a large part of the neighborhood to the downtown where people could, without an automobile, safely come and go. And you get a great workout. I mean, when you're on your bike going up the ramp to that overpass, it really is. And sidewalks.
What I see happening in our community, and as well as in other communities throughout the nation, is that we're creating islands of poverty, poor health outcomes. I'm calling them islands because really what the barriers that we see in our community are busy streets. You know, and lack of transportation becomes a big barrier for people.
That's really true.
So, and what's great with this grant is we were one of 50 cities selected out of over 300 to learn from each other. So we've been able, our team has been able to travel throughout the country to see what's working, what's not working in other parts of America. And
that's cool. And have you come away with new ideas and new approaches? That's great.
Totally. And they've learned from us as well. So it's really a give and a take, and it's very inspirational. So
that is something.
So you've been working on the, I'm sorry, darling.
Oh, I was just going to say, you know, here's a list of people who ought to attend.
Yep.
It says elected officials.
Yep, city council, county commissioners. I expect a good showing of those 2 entities to be there.
Community residents, I expect, of course, the NMCDC, North Missoula Community Development Corporation folks.
Yes.
Developers and planners, city county department heads and administrators, transportation and forestry experts, and advocates. See, that's interesting. It dovetails really well into you know, the mountain line. You know, the zero fare that obtains now, and the zero fare they hope can obtain in the future. Nonprofit leaders, school and university decision makers, housing and healthcare providers, and advocates. So this is going to be, I was just trying to get to the root again. So people watching be like, what are they talking about?
Because they've been working on this project for quite some time, and it's now going to, this is you presenting.
Yep, so we're coming to the end of our grant, which is an 18-month cycle. And so we really wanted to put it out there to the greater community and create a larger Invest Health city team, I would say, and say, hey, this is what we've been working on, this is what we've learned, and this is where we need to go. And so basically we're bringing in Jana West Kowalski. She's from the County Health Rankings and Roadmaps, and she's a community health coach with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, as well as the University of Wisconsin Population, Health Institute. And she's the expert in the field, and she's going to talk to us about what works for health. So what levers do we need for the healthy choice, the easy choice mechanism, like complete streets, for example. So what our community does to have complete streets where we have a street with a curb, gutter, Boulevard Tree sidewalk, for
Yeah.
example. And then with a ramp that's ADA accessible.
And that's important too, because parents don't, when they live in areas without sidewalk, they don't feel safe letting the kids go outside.
Right.
So they say, sit here and watch television until I get home a little at 5:30. So the kids leave school where they're sitting in classrooms all day and then sit at home for another 2.5 hours because the outside isn't perceived as safe by the parents.
Yeah.
So we need to empower people to learn how infrastructure and health are connected.
Right.
And that's what she's going to inspire us to do, and to teach us more the inner workings of what that looks like, how we can look at our growth policy, for example, and look at our different city plans that we have, or neighborhood plans, for example, or if you're in a nonprofit sector or another organization, then how you can contribute to this work as
Yeah.
well.
At a city level, I know that was a bit of an issue, the concept of the special improvement district, to provide
Right.
complete streets, right? So they say, well, we'll go to this place and the people who live here are benefiting from this, so we'll give them a low interest loan over a period of time, but they will pay for these improvements. Then when you find that neighborhoods, there's no way in the world they could afford to pay for those improvements, do you get stuck? With the concept.
Well, that's what we have to come together as a community and fill those gaps.
Yeah.
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 But we have to have these sectors talking to each other and really knowing what the gaps are in the system. So, for example, we have Missoula Redevelopment Agency that does really great work in different parts of our community because they can leverage tax dollars to reinvest into that neighborhood or that part of town,
Right.
which is great. But what I would love to see in our community is where you have MRA going in and doing development and putting in a trail or lighting or a community center, that doesn't end. Like, you can't see where that ends, you know?
Yeah.
So we need to, on the other side of the track, somebody's got to pick up that piece.
Sure,
So that we have
exactly.
that continuity and connectivity that
Yeah.
we need to move.
So this conversation is going to be happening
Early in the morning.
early.
My goodness.
Well, you just come there at 7:30. We'll have food. We'll have delicious coffee, tea.
Right. Wake you up.
Yeah, and this is for, people, we know everybody's super busy, so we're trying to compress and just get people ready to
Right.
go, and we'll kick us off at 8 o'clock, and we'll have the keynote. The mayor will be there to welcome us and talk about health in Missoula and what it looks like. And then after the keynote, we will have we'll talk about our Invest Health work that we've done locally and our neighborhood report and what we've learned from community residents. And then we'll have a community resident panel with representation
Oh.
from Northside, Westside, River Road, Northside, Westside neighborhood, Franklin
That's
DeFort.
excellent. Yeah.
Franklin DeFort, right.
Yeah, so that'll be a facilitated panel, so you'll have the community resident voice to talk about what it looks like through their lens and their neighbor's lens, which is really great. And then from there, we will float into breakout sessions in active transportation, urban forestry, recreation, housing, and quality food and nutrition. So all essential infrastructure pieces for us that we indulge in every day, right?
That's right.
Yeah, you need to eat.
Yeah,
And so this is November 16th. What day of the week is that?
it's a Thursday.
Thursday, a week from Thursday.
Oh, that's right. So Thursday, November 16th at the University Center Theater, which is the
Third floor.
third floor of the UC.
Yep,
Right?
at
Just
the
go
University of
right
Montana.
up, Take
There's
the
an
stairs.
elevator, you can take the stairs.
Take the stairs.
Yes.
It's early.
And it's open to anyone?
It's open to anyone and it's free.
And it's free.
Yes, and we'll have a rich poster display of all of these pieces of what works for health, and just to educate people, so when they're having their coffee and having their sidebar conversations, to learn more on their own during our break sessions. So it's going to be a very interactive, engaging session. And also, I would just share that during our breakout sessions, we're going to really talk to people about what they see that exists in our community within their topic area, and what we need to do to elevate that and carry it forward to create a healthier Missoula for all. So we're going to have to put our thinking caps on and break down the silos and dive deep and work together to fix these problems. And
But it
Build a healthier
just makes so
Missoula.
much sense to get all of these different pieces of
Yes.
a big puzzle together in the same room. And it's an opportunity for all of us to learn about the progress you've made over the past, over a year,
We've
right?
learned a lot. It's been really
I'm
rich.
going. I'm on campus
Congratulations
anyway.
on the grant.
Yeah,
You're right
thank
there.
you.
And MCAT will be recording.
Oh,
some of
good.
that.
Yeah,
Some of
good.
it,
Which
but
I'm
it's
just-
better to go.
I'm tickled that you're recording because I know a few people can't go. So
Yeah.
I have that as my backup plan. Right?
Excellent.
Well, Lisa, thank you for
So,
coming by.
thanks for having me.
So, Scott, there's just enough time to show the carousel and stay within
Perfect.
the hour. So, I've started a new show on MCAT where I go to visit places that have interesting infrastructure, like the carousel, the Peace Farm, the ZAC. I was looking at all the poplar trees that are out as part of the water treatment plant.
Is that
That's a
amazing?
trip.
I just
That was
learned what
amazing.
those are. Why they're
170,000 trees.
It's
Sucking
incredible.
up the super nutrients.
I know.
And then they can make furniture out of them or something, the poor
right.
things. So anyway, we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Thanks for tuning in. For MCAT, I'm Joel Baird.
And I'm Kim Anderson.
We'll see you next time. Hi everyone, I'm Joel Baird, General Manager of Missoula Community Access Television. We're here at a carousel for Missoula. And we're here with Jess Coulter, Director of Operations. Jess, thanks so much for taking the time.
Absolutely, thanks for visiting.
Oh, it's great to be here. This is such a wonderful fixture in Missoula. Could you tell people a little bit about its history, its origins, how it came to be built?
Absolutely. So the carousel opened in 1995 after about 7 years of volunteer work to get it all together. It was the first fully hand-carved carousel built since the Great Depression and was built entirely by volunteers here in Missoula.
It's like, who had the idea for it? Someone that saw one in another town?
Yeah, absolutely. So Chuck Capridge was riding the carousel in Spokane with his wife and saw that they had this beautiful carousel and the horses were hand carved, and he decided that he wanted one for his living room. And so he called a carousel historian named Fred Freed and said, "Fred, how can I get a carousel horse for my living room?" And Fred said, "It's vultures like you who are causing the demise of the American carousel. You want a carousel horse? Carve it yourself." And he hung up the phone.
Oh my gosh, so he was inspired. He just wanted not an entire carousel in his living room, but one horse.
Yes, he just wanted one horse, and he decided, okay, I will carve one, and his wife gave him a set of carving tools for Christmas, and he said he bludgeoned our first pony out of the wood because no one told him he needed to sharpen his tools. So Zonta was our very first pony. She's one of our smaller ponies and rides on the inside. After that, Chuck carved 3 more ponies, and then he put all those ponies in his truck and drove them to City Hall, and he spoke in front of City Council. Of course, there was nothing here before, and they gave us their blessing to create the carousel, and then they also suggested that Chuck probably wasn't going to be able to do it alone, and they asked, they said, you know, would you consider having some volunteers? And Chuck put out a list and said, if you'll carve for our carousel, I'll teach you how to do it. And in 2 hours, the list was full, and we had a waiting list just as long of people really interested in making this project come to life for Missoula. We actually had a design contest for architects when we were building the carousel. We said, what do you think it should look like?
Yeah.
And this was based on a design by Jay Kirby, who is a local architect, and he wanted the carousel to look like a jewelry box, where when we roll these doors up, it looked like the horses were the jewels on display in the jewelry
That
box.
really makes sense. It kind of does look that way.
Yeah.
So these doors allow the carousel to operate all year round. When the building first opened, the jewel box, this structure didn't exist, did it?
No, you know, we actually were not originally designed as a year-round structure. We thought we would be seasonal. And so as we've grown and been here year-round, there have been a couple needs that haven't been met with that space, especially room for our carvers to work and also a space to tell our story. And so a couple years ago, we raised the funds to do this expansion, which created a workshop area for our carvers and also created a museum space where people can hear the story when we're not around to tell it. So this is one of the spaces that our carvers work. So we have a group of people we call the pony keepers who continue to carve. We have as many animals as we need for our carousel, but one of our horses was given to us by a group of carvers in Canada when we were first starting, and so we continue to create animals for other carousels. that are being built on our model, so by volunteers.
Oh, that's really
and we'll
cool.
send them around the country. And then also our pony keepers work on other projects for auctions, or you can commission a piece to be done. So our band organ is the largest band organ in continuous use in the United States. And it plays year round, and it has little tiny tubes and big ones, and creates some great music. And we were able to offer some of those songs for adoption when we were opening. That's one of the ways we raised money. We are open year round except for those 12 days in January. Kids rides are 75 cents each, adults are $2.25, seniors are 75 cents, and we have rides all day long. If you're the only person in the building, we'll still give you a ride. And then we are open from 11 to 5:30 in the winter, and at least 11 to 7 in the summer, although we're often open longer hours. Sometimes we'll close, though, at that 7 o'clock hour to run a private party for someone. So we have people who host their holiday parties or their birthday parties. Lots of special events here. We even have weddings sometimes.
Oh, no
which
kidding.
we really enjoy, yeah. So one of the ways that we raised the money to make our carousel was that we allowed families or businesses to adopt a pony, which meant that they got to tell us what they wanted it to look like. And so each of our ponies has a unique personality and unique characteristics that show about that family or about that organization that adopted it. We have 4 very special ponies that are called our penny ponies, and the penny ponies were actually adopted by the children of Missoula. So we went around and we put milk jugs in all the classrooms in Missoula, and we said, "Bring us your pennies." And we were hoping that we would have enough to adopt 1 pony. At the end, we had over 1 million pennies, which was enough to adopt 4 ponies. And those ponies have pennies in their trappings, and they say that they belong to the school children in Missoula.
Oh, that's so
And the
sweet.
4 classes that raised the most money then got to design those horses. So this is Silver. This is my family's horse. It looks like a horse my dad had growing up. He grew up on a ranch outside of Great Falls. And it has 3 J's on the saddle from Jess, Jason, and Jamie. That's me and my brothers. And then the carvers lately have added a P and an E for my sons.
Oh, very nice.
It also has a seashell on it, and that actually is not important to my family at all, but one of the things that we did is we allowed our volunteers to choose elements to add to our ponies or our mirror frames that they could come and say, "That was me, I put that there." So that's for
really
one of our
cool.
volunteers. This is our museum space. It's still a work in progress, but it kind of tells the story of the carousel, tells about Chuck's beginning, and how our volunteers work together to create this great space.
Okay, now we're in the gift shop part of the carousel. And Jess, what items could people expect to see here in the gift shop?
We have a lot of toys and just things that appeal to kids. We also, though, have a lot of carousel-specific items and items specific to our carousel. So we have a history book, we have a DVD about the carousel, and we have stickers and pencils and things that are specific to our carousel. Postcards with all of our horses.
Great.
Things like that. Good.
Well, Jess, thanks so much for the tour. One of the items you could buy in the carousel gift shop is a DVD history, right, of the making of the carousel.
Yes, we made a DVD with MCAT a number of years ago that really has a lot of interviews, really interesting information from some of the volunteers who were part of its creation. So really a gem to have.
Well, Jess, thank you so much for taking the time to show us the carousel facility, and we hope that you have great visitors over the holiday season.
Thank you so much.
You know it. And thank you guys for watching this edition of Out and About in Missoula. For MCAT, I'm Joel Baird. We'll see you the next time.